even though very tiny, but every day she's picked up some tiny something. So depending on the EEG, if the EEG is limited, said yep, about the same, or yeah, it doesn't look like much, then I would say then these tiny things are going to be just tiny and they're never going to amount to anything. That's one way to think about it. But if it's going to be something that is going to be like there's some activity there that wasn't there before, then that would be the scenario. I'd say, you know, you do the trach and give it a few more days, that sort of thing. You know, that I'm not saying let's just go down one pathway or another, but then maybe wait just a little bit more time, even though in this dependent
Even
state.
though we did the trach, and let's just keep.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
It's because it's the same treatment, just different,
Right.
just a different pathway of
Right.
that. Just like she was eating and we gave her the feeding tube, we have already gone down that pathway for the
But
feeding.
that
part.
is reversible in the future, right?
Yeah, you just fill it out, that's it.
And at what point medically do you say there's nothing more we can do for her medically? She needs to be sent to long-term care.
Yeah.
When does that happen?
I guess when she shows enough improvements from what I
Yeah,
saw,
I mean,
to be put that way, you know.
We could do it as early as Monday, just depending on some sort of, you know, neurologists can see her over there just the same.
So medically,
Yeah.
she's stable, she's
relatively stable,
Yeah.
Right.
We would consider her what we call critically stable, right? She's still on some forms of life support.
Right.
Organs are not working, so she's on a ventilator, she's on dialysis, so it is a type of life support.
Right.
She's on that, but she's relatively stable. But all these things we're talking about, like the tracheostomy, you know, these are all things we can do. And I think like we've talked about, it's, you know, we're trying to decide how aggressive do we want to be
Right.
going forward. And a lot of that is dependent on what we think her neurologic recovery is.
Right.
And unfortunately, we can't
Never
say.
know.
You
know,
don't
we can
know,
say
yeah.
where she is today. We can say, we can have an educated guess on where we think her best recovery would be. But where she falls in the middle, you know, unfortunately, we're in the dark as much as we are.
Right.
So fast forward this thing, he's over the last year, we've been educated sort of terribly about intensive care unit patients and kind of what to do with them when they get into this state. And then I've got years on top of that for doing trauma care, and people get into the situation here. It was very unexpected they come in. So things that happen to people are that definitely their muscle mass goes away.
Right.
A lot of that kind of usual state starts to look different. But if they are dependent, even though neurologically they look like they're making a recovery enough to where you choose that, and they have very much more challenges about their, like I said, I don't even know if her legs are working. So, you know, things like bed sores start to become a
Right.
problem, urine infections, this constant pneumonia we're talking about. So all those start to then generate in to what this frail state from a functional state is
Right.
going to be looking like. And so that's that other pathway, not to say that you don't choose it, just know that that's
Sure.
the near term and a little bit near long term is what then that starts to look like.
Those are things that can happen.
Yeah, well, that's going to be her future, even if it's
Right.
even if you say, oh, the EEG is promising, maybe we should wait 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. In that meantime, then these things start to play together where she's dependent for everyday care, everyday breathing, feeding, dialysis, going in or out somewhere, you know, bed sore protection here. You know, intensive care unit nurse is like 1-to-2 ratio, so they're turning her constantly doing something. Somebody's always in the room doing something with her, and that sort of scales down as we move stages. And so, and then definitely at home it becomes a very intense process of caring for somebody in that state. Not that that should negate it if they have neurological function,
No,
but
I
that is
understand.
something that people may or may not wish for themselves, whether that's what's their wish, and that's what all I'm trying to illustrate.
Sure. Okay.
You've been extremely helpful, I know that. Thank you.
Any other questions from anybody?
Boys, Justin,
So,
y'all kind of understand the pathways and what we're going, what she's going through is the line she won't have to have, which would go one way or one way, whatever.
I understand.
So that's all I know, and I've shared any kind of updates and information with her as it comes, and that's the good thing about the ICU too, is if it happens, you know, we know about it, we don't have to wait very long for things to develop or, things to happen, and intensive care unit staff has just been on top of it, making sure that we are communicated with. We have a 24/7 nurse practitioner to kind of make sure that things come along, we don't have very much delay in anything, so all that's been happening in the background. And we're just kind of seeing a little bit of that progress